Here we go. This is the announcements that came out today. So the first major announcement that came out today for Burning Crusade, like I was saying, guys, because of the fact that we data mine like the in-shop items for like the mount and the flying mount, the pet and everything like that, I knew that there was gonna be a announcement soon, and sure enough, one dropped today. So pre-patch arrives January 13. Now, what does that mean for us? That means we're probably looking at pre-patch for 2 weeks. So we're looking at like February release for Burning Crusade, unless they do a month pre-patch, which I don't know if they do. It's either gonna be 2 weeks or 4 weeks. It just depends on how they're feeling. It looks like this game or TBC is already gonna be at an accelerated pace, would be my guess, just based on the changes that I'm seeing. But I do like the quality of life changes that they're making. We'll get into those here. So once again, beginning January 13, after regional schedule maintenance, the pre-expansion patch will be released, and each character must choose whether to advance onward to WoW Burning Crusade Anniversary Edition or move to a Classic Era Realm. And that features with the Outland. Obviously, you get your Blood Elves and Draenei. Then you're going to get the 3 raids that come in Phase 1 of TBC, which are Karazhan, Gruul's Lair, and Magtheridon's Lair, as well as PvP Arena Rank 1 Season 1. Take to the Skies on Flying Mounts, Jewel Crafting. This is new, to my knowledge, is the Guild Bank. Guild Bank. This is the one thing that's on here that we're going to talk about real quick. So unlike Burning Crusade Classic, and the Anniversary Edition will deliver you and your guild a place to store all your items and gold to be shared amongst guildmates right out the gate. So as soon as we hop into the Burning Crusade, we'll have access to the Guild Bank. So obviously it's found inside of a bank like it normally would be, and there are going to be 8 purchasable tabs with 98 item slots each. Unlike regular banks, bags are not needed for these slots. The price of the first tab is 100 gold and increases for each successive tab. So that is awesome. It gives guilds a place to store mats, and you don't need a bank alt to do so, which is a huge quality of life improvement, right? So thing is the PTR notes. Now, these PTR notes are what is going to be tested. Now, these can or cannot be in, they don't have to be in the game, but these are things that they're looking at changing to add into the game to make the game a little better for everybody else as far as quality of life goes. So I was reading through these, and a lot of these changes are huge W's. Like, I'm gonna be straight up, like, huge W's. I think a lot of these changes are fantastic changes, especially to make the game even more alt friendly and things like that. So we'll get into the changes real quick. So welcome to the Burning Crusade Anniversary Public Test Realm PTR. It's gonna open soon this week. I don't think I'm gonna get to play it. It is what it is. That's fine. I don't mind. But anyways, yeah. So, in general, Heroism and Bloodlust is now raid wide with a 10-minute sated or exhaustion debuff. This specific ability / debuff will only reset on boss kills and wipes. So this is massive news. I know everybody has been asking for this very specifically in TBC because it changes the raid comps and allows a lot of raid comps to be a lot more flexible as far as who they're having and who they're bringing into raid. So now you don't have to stack upwards towards 6 shamans in a 25-man raid, which is a huge win, and honestly it's awesome. And for 10-man raids, you only really need 1 shaman now, and that's more likely going to be a healer. It's gonna definitely help balance it out, because there's really realistically not a lot of people play shaman, especially on the alliance side, where on the horde side I'm sure there's a lot more shamans. But for us alliance, and I'll get into this a little more, you have to level a shaman from 1 to 60. You don't get a boost. So it is what it is. There's going to be a lot less shamans on the alliance side, which I obviously play alliance. So this is a huge W for me. Now, Terracone's respawn rate is increased and additional Terracone nodes have been added. Okay. Edit mode added as a quality of life option for players' user interface. Okay. Heroic dungeons. Now, this is another big change, and I really like this change as well. Every player's first character will be required to become fully attuned or hitting revered reputation level. But upon doing so for each dungeon, players can then purchase a bag which contains a bind on Battle.net account key to send to other alts. Alts must reach at least a friendly reputation to level to use the key and grant attunement to that character. So that saves so much time, because I know in TBC in 2021 when it came out, people were complaining that they had to grind the reputation on every single character. So this saves a lot of time, and it's just at the cost of the gold, which is honestly a pretty massive W in my books as well. And then not only did they stop cooking there, but they continue to cook with these changes. In my opinion, with the raids, every player's first character will be required to become fully attuned for each raid. But upon doing so, that raid will be unlocked for all characters on the player's Battle.net account. Raids will be released in their post-nerf state. This part is debatable, and I can understand where some people are upset about the post-nerf state. But let's talk about the attunement thing, because I think this is another massive time saver, and it's going to be really nice, in my opinion, to have all those attunements done once and not have to worry about them ever again. So I really like that change. The post nerf state, I don't really care either way, to be honest. To me, like, I'm just happy to be able to do the content again. In my opinion, I'm not a really big advocate of doing it pre-nerf or post-nerf. I just want to do the content, have fun, and have a good time in TBC. But that's just me. There's another big change, and that's to do with arenas and PvP. During the original Burning Crusade expansion, it felt good to make a team that started at 1500 and throw together some people to participate in 10 games to receive points each week without having to climb back from zero. With BCC Anniversary Edition, we're interested in bringing that teams feeling back by encouraging players to participate in the system more than ever before. However, we lean into the feeling of teams. We want to be able to play with whomever you'd like without requiring you to make a team. So arena points earned are still based on your individual rating. So they're not based on team rating, they're based on individual rating. So each character's rating starts at 1500 instead of 0. Now, once per week, per character, by the way, you could pay gold to reset your rating back to 1500. This is only possible if you're below 1500 currently. Ratings above 1500 cannot be reset. The gold will vary based on your team's bracket. Each bracket, 2v2, 3v3, 5v5, has its own weekly reset. Now, there are no requirements in order to be able to purchase PvP gear for any pieces, except shoulders, which require 2000 rating, and weapons, which require 1700 rating. We want to maintain the prestige of earning some nice looking shoulders or titles for those competing for top spots, but overall we'd like to make gearing up and participating in PvP more accessible at an entry level, particularly for players who might struggle to reach higher bracket. Now, I feel like this is going to be another pretty big debated topic, but as somebody that's like an average like 1700 player, I don't know if 1700 is average, but I'm roughly about a 1700 player myself, and I've not really like dedicated the time to really push past 1700. I really like this because that means if I do get 1700, I get the weapons, I get all the other gear except for the shoulders, and I can live without shoulders because I know I'm not going to reach 2000 unless I put in an ungodful amount of time to just grind it out. Now, say you are trying to grind, but you've had the worst luck. You lose back to back to back to back, and you drop below 1500. You could pay to reset your rating to 1500, which is, I'd say it's kind of nice, to be honest. I think the 1500 games are going to be kind of wild. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people, obviously, win or lose, right? Just based on skill level. I mean, skill levels are definitely going to separate players, but I think it's nice to start fresh at 1500 each week if you want to spend the gold. I think it's a decent change, and I do like the fact that they're still keeping it where people that are actually competitive and reach higher ratings get better stuff. I think that's a great change, in my opinion. Now, the overall cost of PvP gear has been lowered slightly, which is nice because it makes it more accessible to more people faster, and you can get into PvP quicker. The faction reputation PvP gear will now be sold starting with the first arena season. The item set bonus for each of the faction reputation PvP gear sets have been combined with their honor gear equivalents, right? Which is pretty nice, honestly. This means that players can get a mix of honor and reputation pieces to unlock the 2 and 4 piece set bonus, which is, I feel like this could shake up some things too, because some pieces might be better than the others, you know? I think this is actually a good change as well. Now, this is what I wanted to talk about a little earlier, and there's specifically one thing, and this doesn't really apply to me, but I want the people that are out there playing hardcore, I wanted to talk about this. This right here, Anniversary Hardcore Realms. So as there are no Burning Crusade Hardcore Realms during the transfer window, players with characters on Anniversary Hardcore Realms will have the option to transfer the characters to normal Anniversary Realms, so that those characters will continue to be to Burning Crusade, right? So, but I think what's gonna happen is because of the wording here, I think there is works of a TBC hardcore server that potentially could be released later on, and I would assume that they potentially would start everybody at level 60 or something like that, right? That would just be my assumption for that. But we'll see what happens. It might not ever become a thing. It could, and I think the community is wanting it just to try it out, and I think there's a good potential there could be something like that in the future for hardcore players. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, so along with Burning Crusade pre-patch release on January 13th, by the way, so I had a video talking about these packs before, but this is the official release about the in-shop packs. Now, I know a lot of Classic WoW players specifically don't really care for in-shop purchases and things like that, but I think some of this stuff is kind of cool, and it does look pretty cool, and I'm pretty excited about the flying mount. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like the flying mount. I think the flying mount looks sick. Like, I think they did a good job, except the ground mount kind of irritates me because it's just a reskin of the one that they did previously when TBC came out. But, you know, it is what it is. And I mean, these dragons are all kind of reskins anyways, but they do look sick with like the ghostly wings and stuff. But anyways, yeah, so there's 2 different packs that they're coming out with. So you have the Outland Epic pack. This includes everything in the heroic bundle, along with the 58 character boost and 30 days of game time. So the heroic pack it includes the Nether Drake flying mount, a Phase Hunter ground mount, a Whelpling pet, an Exodar toy, and a Naru themed Hearthstone effect for various WoW collections and more. So obviously, here's everything that you get per the sets, which are pretty cool. If you're into the stuff, I mean, they're out there for you to buy. I'm probably gonna buy it just because I kind of like them. I'm not gonna lie, I think they're pretty cool looking. But I think they're $80 and $40 depending on what you want. So if something you're interested in, they're out there for you. And again, the last thing I wanted to cover was this little paragraph right here on this page. So level 58 character boost. So if you're not familiar with how it worked, if you didn't play BC last time, it will be available to use starting the pre-patch anticipated before January 31st, 2026. Level 58 character boost on Anniversary cannot be used on Draenei or Blood Elf races characters. Again, you can only use it on classes that are not Draenei or Blood Elf. So if you make any kind of Draenei, any kind of Blood Elf, you cannot use a boost. So what does that mean? That means, like I was mentioning earlier about Lust or Heroism being raid wide, For Alliance, it's going to be great because not a lot of people are going to go back and level a character from 1 to 60. Now, there is a couple questions that I have, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But for the Horde, it means that there probably won't be a ton of Paladin tanks that are Blood Elf race, because there's not going to be a ton of people that are going to go back and level a Blood Elf from 1 to 70. Sorry. There's going to be people that do it, but not everybody's going to want to do it, is what I'm saying, right? So the time investment that it takes to level from 1 to 60 in the pre-patch and then 60 to 70, obviously, I know a big issue with the 2-week pre-patch is people were kind of behind. So what ended up happening was everybody was pushing through the content in TBC, while everybody that was stuck leveling a Blood Elf and a Draenei were still in like classic leveling still, right? So you only can get so far in 2 weeks, even if you're playing non-stop, which definitely not recommended to play non-stop. But it is what it is, and people do grind that stuff out. And I think like people were like level 40 when 48 when we hit like level 70 already. So they will be behind because they can't boost. And I disagree with this. I think they should be able to boost, but especially if you already have a character that's max level, you should just be able to boost. I think that should be a stipulation. You have to have a max level character in order to boost a Blood Elf or Draenei. But personal opinion. So you can disagree if you want. Make sure, let me know in the comments as well. Also, last thing, there's still a chance that we can get more changes. So that is everything that's coming to Classic Anniversary Realms. So we know our date, January 13th. We know the changes that are going to be looked at and tested. And I say tested because they're not going to be 100% put into the game based. It's going to depend on how the PTR goes, which most likely I can see all these changes realistically going into the game. Like I said, there's some debatable ones that people might not like, but I think they'll suck it up and just play the game anyways, because much like me, I personally don't care about like post nerf or pre nerf state for raids and things like that. I just want to play through the content. But to me, this seems like it might be a little fast-tracked, in my opinion, which I appreciate because we're only probably going to get like a year or so of game time before they start looking at going into Wrath, which I think they will release Wrath after TBC. And then I don't know where the Classic series goes after that, but, you know, that's future time. That's all the news we got so far. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and like the video. It greatly helps the channel out. And also leave a comment if you have any kind of feedback or your thoughts on TBC for the release and the pre-patch. And I will see you guys later.